Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, Julian. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing perfect. How's everything in Florida? Is this like a or South Florida? Is it like a touristy time right now?
Um, I guess kinda. I feel like it's been permanently touristy, like
Hmm.
post-COVID. It's just been like a large influx of people moving here,
Yeah.
especially in like Southeast Florida where I'm in. So yeah, it's a lot of like developments, buildings and new condominiums and yeah,
Is it
it's
all year round, or is it just specifically around the summer?
um I guess specifically around the summer in general, but
Hmm.
yeah, like I think just like right now, like the trend is there's a lot of new people moving to Florida. I mean, over the past few years there have been, and it
Yeah.
just hasn't really stopped. So it's definitely transforming a lot than it was maybe like 5 or so years ago, or even before that.
Sure. And what's like the music scene like right now out there in South Florida?
It's it's interesting. There's not, well, so where I am, I'm in Boynton Beach,
Hmm.
that's in like Palm Beach County, and yeah, the music scene in Miami and Palm Beach County, Broward County, there's definitely like some really cool venues
No.
for original music. However, it's not as prevalent just because it's not really, it's not, there's a lot more retirees here,
Sure.
tourists, and a lot of cover bands.
Hmm.
It's like especially in like the Palm Beach County area, it's like a lot of cover bands. It's like the market is like mostly that. And so that kind of makes it easier for original music to shine if you have something interesting to say and if you're good, I guess. But yeah, it does kind of feel like slim pickings a little bit. So it's an interesting dynamic for sure.
It's weird because I've had a few musicians from Italy, and they say they're nothing but cover bands out there, and it's very slim when it comes to original music. Where they go, okay, well, we want to play a venue, we want to play this, and they're like, well, if you're not playing rock and roll or cover or DJ, then we're really not interested in, and unfortunately, it doesn't really make a lot of money, I guess.
Hmm.
So they will find kind of their own place to perform, house shows or, whatever. They're kind of doing this sort of a run of like DIY, like the sort of punk thing that, was kind of starting out early on, or even just within, the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, where people were playing VFW halls or basement shows or garage shows. So they're trying to find their own way to go, we want to keep doing what we're doing, even though the venues aren't letting us. If that makes sense. So
No, that makes perfect sense. That's kind of how I came up playing down here. I mean, I played under bridges, lots of house shows, but like definitely a lot of odd places. So like the one most notable is like I for a couple times, like when I first started, I played under the Indian Town Road Bridge, and the cops would break it up, and and just like really odd spaces like that. And yeah, of course, like lots of DIY spaces. So those do exist. Well, kind of like in small amounts. And then there's just like places that you can make DIY space, like the bridge show, for example. Um, so yeah, it is a little bit like that. And then there are a couple alternative original music venues down here, especially in like what the West Palm Beach, like Worth area and in Miami. But the turnover for those venues over the past like decade is like, like there have been like a couple that have like stood the test of time, and then a lot that, they're gone in like a year or two because the business is
it's the
kind of
way of the
scale.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Um,
DIY for sure.
let's jump into the new album. Is it? I wrote it down. Hope you have a good day.
Did you have a good day?
Thank you. Okay. Oh, did you have a good day? Sorry. I wrote
Yeah.
it down. I'm like, I got all these notes and I'm bouncing back. Yeah. It's so, how did I wrote it down. I said it's an intimate yet commanding album. And I guess it feels like South Florida's very own treasure. Like it's an album. It's starting to seep in. The first listen, I loved it. It's very relatable, especially with bands that I've listened to. Arcade Fire, the Mars Volta, Radiohead. I try not to do too much comparing one or the other, but it's very familiar. But the more I listen, it gets stuck in my head, and it really gets, there's this balance of the music and the emotions, and you really start feeling it with each listen. And such a good album. Like, it was very intimidating to listen because there's a lot of bands that I'll get on. They're electronic, goth, punk. You kind of name it, you got it. And this one just felt like almost like the first time when I listened to, like Radiohead's more electronic stuff, or even OK Computer, where I went, oh, I saw Paranoid Android on MTV and went, I'm gonna go buy that album. But then you put it on and you're going, this is a heady album. There's so much to it. There's so many layers, and it's a beautiful album that you just made.
Thank you.
Seriously,
Thank
like
you.
I try not to get too like, but it's a it's so good. It's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I
Yeah,
really appreciate that. And even outside of the nice words you said, the one thing that you did mention that really resonated with me is, I also when I was younger, discovering, some of my favorite artists growing up when I was a teenager, like Radiohead. I remember hearing Paranoid Android on the radio when I was like 13 or something like that. And it's like, oh, I need to get this CD immediately. And then, of course, become obsessed with OK Computer, and then pivoting to like, oh, let me check out this Bjork artist and this other, just kind of just go down the rabbit hole when you're, young and have a developing creative brain, discovering things that feel subversive and new and like that kind of like push the boundaries of your beliefs and what you knew music could do. So yeah, that
it's
was cool to hear you say that because I have a very similar arc.
good deal. I think there's uh, a lot of similarities. I think when it comes to music taste, I think we're very much right on there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Go ahead and dig into the process of making this album. I mean, from what I read, took started in 2020 and kind of finished in 2026. And you had some, a side project, and you're very busy artistically. Kind of tell me about, that 6 years of creating this new album. We'll eventually kind of go back and kind of start at the beginning, but I like to start with the album that just came out. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to condense it as much as
Do
possible.
what you got to do, whatever works. Go.
'Cause I could go on and on about it.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a long time coming and in creation. I mean, some of these songs, I would say even a couple of them are older than that too. They just like never found a home. Like a song like "Marry Your Skull," I wrote that. Man, it must have been like 2014, like right after a record I put out then. Um, and then this song called "The Philosopher's Daughter," that's also like an older one.
Yeah.
But then
Good
yeah,
one.
the
Yeah.
rest of them, yeah, they came in like various times in my life. Um, and yeah, I was just about to move to LA like around 2017, 2018. And that's when the production for the record went into like full swing. Like I had the bulk of the songs and the material, and uh I was ready to like put the pieces together, so to speak. Like I was already like, arranging it in my head, and that's like the most fun part for me, really. It's just like once I have the body of work, just like seeing like what themes are connecting to each other, and what threads are like connecting to that song, and just like some of it's like very direct and intentional, and some of it is subconscious. And I realized it like later on, like, oh, I didn't realize I was like connecting this to that, and until like in rest, I guess after the fact. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it was definitely a long time in the making, for so many reasons. But I think it was just I was just living life. I was moving all over the place. And then COVID happened, and I was in Arizona, and but wherever I was, like I always had my laptop with me, so I was always doing some sort of production on it. Um, and yeah, I feel like the time really benefited the record because there are moments in that record that would not have been possible because I just didn't know how to achieve what I was thinking in my head sonically. Like I just didn't. Like I needed to learn a lot more through myself and also through my friends and collaborators and even strangers, like people that I lived with in LA, just giving me the confidence to like compose. Like hey, I lived with a few composers in Culver City for a while, and that gave me confidence because like I just felt like an imposter when it came to like different instrumentation and different arrangements, and it just like being immersed in that sort of culture just like really benefited me and my confidence musically. And um, yeah, it took a while. It was in the oven for quite a bit,
That's okay.
but yeah,
People should be okay with doing that. They don't. It shouldn't be
absolutely.
like have to jump right in and put
Oh,
it driven.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree. I would get a lot of questions though, like when's this freaking record come out? Just put it out. Like, and it's like, no, I don't.
give it time.
I'll put it out when it's
Let it
ready.
cook. Let it
Yeah,
cook.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Like, yeah, you gotta let me cook a little bit.
you should.
Uh,
And it really paid off too. You know, like again. But go ahead. Sorry,
yeah, yeah,
I'm not
no, no,
meaning to
and
gas you.
and
So
yeah, no, I just wanted to also just highlight like the importance of my collaborators for this particular record. Like, in my previous output with Lavola specifically, it was very much like, here's my vision and um not like intentionally boxing people out, but I think there's that vibe where people felt afraid to like be in the lane of like talking to me or pitching things
yeah,
like even if it's just like a production choice or like or have you thought about that maybe and as I've gotten older I've become a lot more comfortable and super open and wanting that sort of collaboration. So even though like the Lavola is it's been my brainchild for so long. um it's at this point I have like a circle of friends and producers who are have been with me for a long time. Jeff Rose, he's been my live drummer and frankly like a creative collaborator. Like I love bouncing ideas off of him, and I know like he if an idea is not cooked, to keep up with that analogy, he's very direct and he'll let me know. Sometimes I'll have to fight back, and then but that's where the interesting the stuff, that's where the magic happens, I think within the friction and like trying to fight for ideas, but then also like trying to concede like, okay, wait, you were right. And then also with my co-producer for this record, Paige Coley, she was also another very direct personality, which helped me immensely. Like if there was like a part in a particular passage where it just felt like boring, I think her term was the boring test.
gotcha.
If a passage felt like there's not really anything that I'm grabbing onto or latching onto, she would, insist or encourage me, not insist, encourage me to take another stab, take a second stab, take a third stab, take a fourth stab.
Mhm.
And then I just get frustrated, like, this is perfect. I don't need any more. And then after the fourth stab, I come up with like this cool arpeggio and I pitch it to her, like, I think this is it. And then ends up being that was it. It needed me to work a little harder, to dig a little deeper. So
Yes,
yeah, it,
smart.
I think that's what's really special about this record. It's not just the past ones. Like I can identify where I was at in my life, and every single note that I own. And this one feels like these are my songs, but I can sense my friends in it, and I can sense their input and their fingerprint, and I love that. So yeah,
Smart.
that's what makes it special to me, and I feel like just special in general.
Do you feel like you found like your core collaborators? Because I know in certain bands, especially someone who's kind of the leader or the head of the idea, and you go, okay, I got all these ideas, I got these song ideas, and trying to find people that will kind of keep with that. Are you very much like, here's my idea, or do you try and keep it a little bit more fluid, where it's kind of like here, but let's kind of add a little, what I mean, like you said with like the collaborative process, where I guess some band members they just go, you know what, I feel like there's friction. I'm just going to go ahead and step out. Do you feel like you really found your like core group at this point with the
Yeah,
project? Yeah.
yeah, I would say so. Yeah, there's definitely a core group, and yeah, like we have a very special relationship. So yeah, I definitely feel like that, and it took a while for sure. Like in my earlier iterations of Lavola, um, it never felt like that, and I'm sure I'm partly to blame. Like I'm sure like maybe I was really a lot more stubborn than maybe I am now.
We all
Um,
grow up, yeah.
but also like it took me a while to surround myself with musicians and creatives where I felt like their talents are like right here, you know?
Yeah,
And I'm like right here. So like you always want to like surround yourself with people who, can that you can aspire to, and I feel like I'm surrounded by like, immensely talented people, and it inspires me and it motivates me. So it keeps me on my A game for
good.
sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the fun part about it.
So when you started with this album, kind of was it kind of sitting there generating ideas? Are you kind of you sit in front of like your laptop, you got like a digital audio workshop, guitar or whatever, and you're kind of generating demo ideas? Are you like a pencil paper on the phone? Kind of tell me how things kind of start in the process of writing a song. And then are there any like influences like, a movie, a book, a piece of art? Like kind of tell me your sort of songwriting process.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned the other medias too as influences because that's
Very
super
important.
important for Lavola and anything I do. That's like the more interesting part about translating emotions and not just like another album. Although there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't have at this point my method is just all over the place. When I was coming up with Lavola, it was, just a guitar and a looper. That's how I wrote all the songs off of like my earlier EPs and albums is literally just my guitar and a looper and then my imagination. And the lyrics would come afterwards. Like I typically I what's a lot more common with me is to write the top line or the chorus along with the hook and then filling in the narrative after the fact, like with the verses and etc. But at this point, especially for this record, it was the method was just all over the place. Like a song like Empty Home started in my DAW and with just like all synths and all just like MIDI arrangements and then showing it to the bandmates over the summer of like 2018 and then just like them looking at me like crazy, like what the hell is this? But that was like the fun part of like interpreting something that lived in my DAW that was not for an electronic project and converting it into like an analog rock-ish band. So there was like definitely like moments like that where it's just like me playing around in my DAW, me playing around with various synths. That's when I was, like a decade ago. That's when I started like getting really into electronic production in general before my other band, Deep Sea Richard Center. And yeah, but then there's also moments where it's just like me with a guitar, me looping still. Um, some that literally just came from like my head without even having an instrument, like a song like from the Technicolor, like that the first verse and like melodies and stuff like that. That was just like a melody that I would just sing in the shower, and just like and I was like, this is really cool. Let me just put this to my phone or whatever medium I had at the time and then it just popped up later when I was arranging this like jazzier bossa nova-ish rock tune. So really the short answer is there wasn't really a consistent method for this particular record. Did you have a good day? It was just whenever creativity would strike, I just whether it was in the box in my DAW or in my head in the shower or driving my guitar, a bass guitar, whatever it was, like it was just capturing the initial seedling of idea and then um, either giving it time to work itself out with myself or with my group, or just like banging it out within 24 hours, which is usually my preferred method. So
Just
yeah.
that motivation that where it's like I got to get this done. I know there's something here. I got to keep going and get it out of my head before it drives me crazy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's my preferred way of working. And there's a couple of songs on this record that thankfully were like that. It was like that quick. Like a song like that, the title track, "Did You Have a Good Day?" That was literally just like written. within like 24 hours, even the lyrics, which is very rare for me to like finish all the lyrics in like within the same time of writing that idea and arranging the idea. So that's super rare for me, but that's when it's like it feels really special and exciting when you can just bang something out that quick.
Yeah. And then taking it and kind of translating it into the studio, do you try and kind of explore the room, kind of explore the sounds a little bit more? Did you record it in Florida, or were you still out in LA when you recorded it?
Both.
Both.
Uh,
Okay.
I, I I I did the bulk of the drums and bass uh with my co-producer Paige in Florida, Orlando, Florida.
Hmm.
And then I took the session to LA. I did almost all the guitars in LA, a lot of the synth stuff in LA, vocals back and forth, LA and Orlando, whenever I'd visit Florida.
Hmm.
And then there's the track, the title track, Did You Have a Good Day, which was all in LA. Paige flew out to Secret Hand Studios, the studio owned by Jeff Friedel, Perfect Circle, and Devo.
Yep.
And we just did that full track in like the same day, like drums, bass, vocals. Um, so yeah, it was short answer all over the place. And then like I mentioned earlier, like wherever I had my laptop and I could just do some sound design or some arranging with any sort of like soft synths or anything like that or analog synths that I happen to be traveling with. Um, I would take that to Phoenix, all over California, wherever I had my laptop or at the airport, just wherever I could find time to work, I guess.
Sure, I get that. I get that. And was what did you feel like you learned making the previous album into this one? Like, do you feel like you've kind of explored a little bit more, kind of matured in your lyric writing process? This book came out in 2014. Again, another amazing album. Tell me about kind of what when you kind of stepped away from the recording process and performing this book live into kind of working on this, what do you think you've learned like in that process when you jumped into recording Did You Have a Good Day?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, like in general, and I know I'm not alone in this. Like when you finish like some sort of piece, whatever you're doing, music or any sort of other creative field, I feel like the reaction afterwards is, and like what your learnings are afterwards, is just like to kind of like naturally want to do something completely different or at the very least like slightly different. So after Cowardice was released and promoted and toured whatever, I knew that I didn't want to write another record like that. Um, that particular record felt like a moment in time. It's very absurd and angry and
Was there a
frenetic.
lot of problems with that album? Was there like deleted files and shit like that?
There is a little bit, yeah.
Okay,
There's
okay,
a
that's
little
what I
bit
thought. I read that and I was
of
like, I got to ask him about that. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, nothing that ended up being too dramatic, but yeah, that it was definitely kind of like a pain in file management at a certain point in time. And part of that was probably my fault too. Um, but yeah, I mean, I knew what I wanted to do after a couple of years after Cowardice and reflecting on that record and the future of like Lavola. I mean, one, I was struggling to first like see a future for Lavola. That was one point. Because I just wasn't feeling very creative. I was kind of like in a creative rut, like a couple years out or a year or two after Cowardice. Um, but I knew that if Lavola were to continue, I'd want to do something very different from Cowardice. And I wanted to like lean into the heaviness of Cowardice, but like do it in a way that didn't require loud, abrasive guitars and translating an emotion without relying on, for the lack of a better description, like rock cliches, like just like here's the loud
Loud.
chorus,
Ah, yeah, I
yeah,
get
yeah,
that.
yeah, and here's the scream, and it's uh, and anyone that likes Cowardice, like I like Cowardice too. Okay,
It's an amazing
um,
album again, but you can't always keep going back to, I get it.
yeah, it is a moment in time, and I'm proud of that time for sure. But it didn't feel representative of Lavola. Um, and I wanted to get back to the core of how I viewed Lavola. And also, like I mentioned, just like trying to express these emotions in a way where it I didn't have to rely on, some kind of like stock tricks. It just that was like the challenge really. Like how do I make something feel heavy but not really rely on guitars a whole lot to like transmit that energy. So that was like the mission statement, I guess. And before I even started writing the book of the songs, I was just like in my head, like whatever I write next, like I really hope I can do it in this sort of manner. And so took time to like do that, but we got there.
Who does the cover art?
So for this particular record, Julia Soboleva,
Okay.
Soboleva, if I'm saying her last name right, I always butcher it. But in the previous records, it was a an artist named Angela Petsis, who I was a massive fan of, still am. She's not really doing art anymore,
Mm.
and I was in this like interesting, um, I don't know, period in time where I was like just like the art for Lavola is like super important for me. Like just art in general is super
Eye
important for
catching.
me.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
gets you. Like it grabs you. It's like, wow, amazing. Especially in the
Yeah.
age of AI where everybody's using AI for everything. It's like this one is just like it's a it's a piece of art. Like it's like,
Mhm.
something you would see on the wall, at an
Absolutely.
art show. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah, like I take that like very, very seriously. That's like also like one of the more fun parts of putting out music for me. It's not even just like putting out the song. Obviously that's a huge part of it. So I'm not dismissing that, but like I get equally as excited to like share the extension of the music, which is the art, whether it's like the visual medium or like the video medium or the actual artwork. Um, I I work hard to channel what I feel, or direct what I feel represents the music. And Julia's art, like I became a fan of her art like 2018 or so, 2019. And yeah, after like a year of just like lurking her art pages, I hit her up. I'm like, hey, like I have these rough mixes for this record that I'm currently producing. Can I start, can we build this relationship? And yeah, she's been amazing. We have a lot of similar tastes outside of music and outside of, the art world as well. Um, and yeah, we built a really cool creative relationship. And the more the most fun part about that working with her was like later on when all the songs were written and recorded and they were in varying stages of rough mixes. Well, I just gave her like all the lyrics, all the rough mixes, and she was commissioned to do, original pieces for like 4 or 5 original pieces for the record, exclusively for the record. So like translating the lyrics and like the themes, and it was really fun to see the output of that, and just to see like what she was picking up on, and a couple of the pieces like we kind of like went back and forth on and collaborated on. um so yeah, that was a really special collaboration to me because that's a medium that is so beautiful to me. So
I
yeah.
like that when you get an album and you got to put out, this is the age where you kind of put out a few singles
Hmm.
and then, your main album. And with each single is just like something different. And I like when bands kind of do that package deal where, you kind of collaborate with an artist and go, okay, I got this song. I want a piece of art for that and that and that, and it's such, I encourage everybody check it out on Bandcamp would probably be the best route. If you like the album, if you like the songs, please buy them. I always encourage that straight out. Make sure the money goes to the artist. I mean, streaming's fine, but pay the artist, please. And if you like physical, get the vinyl and it's God, such a good album. Anyways, so I like when you can collaborate with an artist and kind of go with this song. I want this, and it's a different piece each time. It's very eye catching, very beautiful. Like
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Like I super proud of
so
what she put out there. Yeah, it's so sick. It really is.
good. Yeah.
So yeah, I will continue working with her. Because she's the best. She really is.
And Is that, are all those pieces going to be like on the physical media, or is that just specifically for like just that single? Like, are you going to put them all kind of in this like where you can have like a vinyl and kind of look at it or anything?
Yeah,
Like, are there any
yeah,
plans?
yeah.
Okay.
The vinyl has the art.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's there for the world building, I suppose.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to baby Lavola. Let's talk about the beginning process of it. Kind of tell me where mentally where you were when you kind of worked on this project and
Mhm.
kind of started out in your bedroom, just kind of let's put some, you know, let's put some songs, let's work on songs, and then kind of how it evolved. So tell me about kind of where you were mentally when you started this project,
Yeah.
then we'll kind of work kind of our way back up to the new album.
Yeah. Yeah, so I started it when I was I guess 21.
Hmm?
And yeah, like you alluded to, it started out as a bedroom project. I would just record little snippets of melodies, loops, whatever, into like this like little cassette player I had, and before smartphones, I guess. Um, and yeah, I just had like this very, very strong desire to play music live, to like to do something. And like I guess for further context, I was, and this is probably so common for a lot of creatives too, so I feel like a walking cliche just saying this, but I was extremely shy. I was extremely reserved, and just like kind of just scared to live life. I was in Tallahassee doing my undergrad in creative writing, and I didn't really know what to do next. I like the path was like I could be a lawyer, I could, like, or but I really have the strong passion to just to sing and to write, and I didn't really know how to do it. I didn't really have many friends when I was younger. And definitely any like, musically inclined friends, like maybe like one, but they were doing their own thing. And when I would show them some of my like riffs, and they knew like, oh, that's the kid that likes Radiohead and Amy Mann, Fiona Apple, like, and they're like more into like rock shit. And I didn't really find my niche, I guess, of musician friends, growing up. So it was just me, and so that kind of forced me to like do things my own. Like,
Sure.
it wasn't like
I believe
necessarily a choice.
it. Hmm.
It was just like I just had myself, and to add even more context, I didn't even know if I could sing. I was so scared to like give it a proper shot that I wouldn't even sing by myself. I would write melodies as if like I was going to sing them, but I didn't know if I could sing them. So I kind of like played my own hand at that, and I booked some time at a studio when I was 21. I had four songs which I'd written: The Philosopher's Daughter, Woman Gives Birth to Chair, Black Sea Trees, and Paler, which would be like the first demo EP, I guess. Um, and yeah, I did all the instrumentation. I had a friend back then who recorded the bass. Um, and yeah, I did the drums, and then it was time to record vocals. And I was probably the most
Scared.
scared I've ever been in my
You're always.
life. I know, I literally, I saved it for the very last. I was like just sweating. I was just so nervous. It was what a painful freaking day. Um, and I did it, and I didn't sound half bad.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I have a voice. It didn't feel like my voice yet, but I had a voice. And so that was that record, Black Sea Trees. It was me discovering not just like songwriting, but is me discovering the art of um engineering and arranging songs. Like, not just like, I didn't engineer that record, but it taught me like you can't just throw a million mid-rangey guitars and melodies all in the same frequency range and expect it to, work. But I didn't know any better. So that record has an unintentional like lo-fi-ness to it. Um, but it's special in that way.
Right.
Any like
Yeah.
early work, for all its like rough edges, it becomes charming in a way.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but it didn't feel like my voice. The songs felt like Lavola. It felt like the thesis for Lavola and the mission statement for what Lavola would become. Um, but I had to develop a little bit more musically and vocally to really find my own voicing, I guess. So that was where I was at. I was a really shy kid. Grew up in sleepy town, Palm Beach Gardens, and didn't really have a whole lot of friends. And yeah, I just had this strong desire to express this, to kind of compensate for how quiet I was, like I just want to scream and sing really loud, and because I just in my normal life back then I just wasn't really talking much at all. I was voted the most shyest. I was the shyest in my senior superlative. There's a picture, awkward picture of me that they took, and I was like just surprised because like I didn't know you guys even knew me.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's generally where I was at. I was just really immersed in film and music and reading. Like I read, anything and everything. I did all my life. So, hence why I was a creative writing major.
Right. And yeah.
Um, but yeah, and to kind of like go back to how you opened this dialogue is, a lot of my earlier inspirations didn't just come from music. Obviously, like I grew up with some of my favorite, artists in like the 90s alternative sort of sphere. Uh, but uh and that did shape me in a way where like a lot of the artists I was into, they really valued the medium of art in general, not just the music side of it. But yeah, I drew a lot of inspiration from what I was reading. I still do.
Oh yeah.
Um, and what I was watching, what I was consuming outside of music. That was like the more interesting part to me. It was like trying to translate a piece of art even, and like how that would evoke a certain emotion in me. Like there were a couple songs, the song called "The Philosopher's Daughter," which I re-recorded for this new record, "Did You Have a Good Day?" And that was literally like that came from me discovering Angela Pett's artwork for the first time. I was at this art gallery in Tallahassee, and I saw her wall of art, and all our mixed media pieces were displayed. And there's one in particular that just like really, all of it was gorgeous to me. And I was not like super familiar with like mixed media as a format back, when I was 19 or 18.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like I went home after that event, and I wrote The Philosopher's Daughter, and it was really just I just felt so inspired by what I saw and what I took in that particular night. So I think it's super important for artists to draw inspiration from wherever, not just music. I feel like if you just stay in that lane, like you're bound to just recycle ideas, and I think it's more interesting when you find creativity outside of music, whether it's other creative fields and mediums, or even outside of the creative field in general. So
Did
yeah,
it
a lot of
feel? Sorry, I was gonna say, did it feel
no.
special? Starting off with the philosopher's daughter, kind of in that beginning, and then re-recording it for the new album because it sounds incredible. The re-recording, don't get me wrong, I like the early, but it just really fits in with the new album. I felt like there was this, a growing process where it's
Yeah.
like it got better. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah,
No, no, it makes perfect sense. And like I mentioned that first EP, like, when it was done, I was so proud of the songs. And even back then I was just proud of it in general.
yeah,
And then like as a little bit of time went on, I realized like The Philosopher's Daughter was like a song that I was immensely proud of. And it just became like a bucket list thing for me to one day re-record it. Whether it's just like for fun or whether it is for another record. I didn't really know. I just knew like this song it deserves some TLC. It deserves to be viewed in another perspective in another time. So yeah, it was special to answer your question. Having it in this record, it felt, a lot of this record, like at a high level, there's a lot of threads connecting loss and like coping with loss and particular forms of delusion and magical thinking, and it all ties together. And what made the philosopher's daughter special in this record was not just because it ties into those themes perfectly, but also it ties into an earlier version of myself. Um, and so like the thread, they just aren't contained within the record. They extend into the discography and I guess the lore of Lavola, and that's special to me. There's particular meanings and just there's learnings there, I think, on the record, and that anyone can look into and see for themselves. But then there's some personal ones for me where, you know, I can't even speak to like I can't even speak to it just because it's there's some personal connections for me that like even though the record's out and it's for, anyone that listens to it, it's no longer like mine. There are threads that are still mine that I can keep private and keep to myself. So yeah, having the philosophers connect to an earlier iteration of Lavola, that's special in its own sort of way. And there's other moments like that for this record.
Tell me about, because you said starting out, you're kind of finding yourself, finding your voice. Tell me about eventually getting up on stage and performing live. Tell me about that.
Yeah, another nerve-wracking experience.
Right.
Yeah, forgot about that. Yeah, my first show was at this venue in Miami called Churchill's,
Mhm.
and it's an iconic place in Florida. It's like just like an old uh punk venue, and it's gross and disgusting and abrasive in all the best ways possible. Um, so yeah, my first show was there, and then I had my proper hometown show like a week after that. Um, so yeah, both times singing were definitely nerve-wracking. I remember like before we hit the first note of the song "The Queen is Dead" at the very first Lavola show ever, like there's just like this like moment in time where like it's just like so cliche, like time just like slowed down a little bit, just like am I gonna do this? Am I actually gonna do this? And then I did it, and then ended up being good.
Good.
Um, and I had a couple of friends there, and they're like, they were like genuinely impressed, and like they were like, I think they were expecting it to be bad, and then they're like, that was really good, actually. Like, yeah, that felt good, you know. So I just kind of rode that a little bit, and I mean, after a couple of shows, the nerves for singing went away completely. It was just like breaking the seal, like anything else, just like, can I do this? And then like, oh, I can do this, and I'm not an imposter, so.
Does that still kind of go with, you know, each show you're kind of like anxious and nervous, you're backstage kind of pacing and sweating and nervous?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
No,
I
yeah.
still get nervous. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very rare for me to get nervous before shows. Ironically, like the shows where I would get like a little bit of nerves are the ones where there's like very few people and I'm playing like acoustic or something. Just
Or,
like, and like it's not like my audience,
mm-hmm.
for lack of a better way. Like it's just like an audience that I know is gonna be for lack of a better description, a hard sell, right?
Okay.
Whereas like back when I was younger, like I love playing those sort of shows where it's just like I see there's someone's bachelorette party, in the crowd, and they're not gonna fuck with it, what's about to happen, and I kind of got a high off of that.
Cool.
Um, I don't really at this point. Yeah, I guess it's just on growing up a little bit, but
So funny.
yeah, in general, no, I don't get nervous before shows. I get a good amount of fun anxiety. Like I just want to get up there and do it. So
What when it came to each album, even starting with the EPs and then you know, what tell me about how the performing live kind of changed, and how you kind of translated everything from studio to performing live, because there's a lot of elements there. Kind of tell me how you kind of built that.
yeah, I mean the Lavola Live lineup in general has really shifted and evolved over the past, you know, decade plus.
Mhm.
There have been so many iterations of the live lineup, so I couldn't even speak to like uh I could speak to that at a high level, I think. So it started out as a trio.
Mhm.
With Leaving Paris era, it was, that was like the trio like really represented Lavola. And I feel like for a large amount of time, Lavola Live was a trio, and I it was my duty to try to fill up the sonic spectrum as much as I could. And that what that largely meant in a very just practical standpoint was like I had a orange half stack and I had another huge combo amp and I was just really loud. And so yeah, those earlier shows were ear piercing.
Like a
Um,
shoegaze type of like everything,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
a wall of
Just
sound, yeah.
wall of sound, absolutely. Like early Lavola was like wall of sound. I feel like back in like 2011, 2012, we were and beyond, we were infamous locally for being the wall of sound band. Um, and then, it evolved in different sort of iterations. And, we've had live strings, and, sometimes additional guitarists, but never like really like a dedicated second guitarist live. It just was always very fluid. I mean, there was a point in time where we had two drummers, like two drum sets on stage, and that was obnoxious. But it was also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's just to say, like, it's really like year by year, it's like whatever feels like the most inspiring, I guess. And a lot of it is dictated by, like the friends I have available that are playing Lavola. Like just life happens, people move away, and then that dictates, that the live sound because, the other live members of the band, they also put their stamp on the sound live. And when one guy goes, or it changes, the dynamic subtly changes. Uh, but it's always for the better. It's always fun, it's that change is fun for me. So for this record, though, in particular, there, like you alluded to, there are a lot of layers and a lot of the arrangement is a lot more intricate than some of my earlier pieces for Lavola. So yeah, thankfully we're not. I shouldn't say thankfully we're not touring this record. There's no plans to tour this record. We'll probably do some one-off shows in like New York, LA. Um, but whereas like I've toured, almost, well, I've toured a handful of times in the past. Like there's not really going to be a dedicated tour for this one, um, for better or for worse. But it was fun playing the string of shows that we have to support the record so far as a quintet. We have Sophie on viola, incredible musician. She's also on keys. Jeff Rose, who has been my live drummer for so long. He's playing guitar for the current live iteration of Lavola for the Did You Have a Good Day? And Tristan Yeager on drums, crazy, crazy drummer. Um, Paul on bass. So the sound is filled out, and it's knowing what I know now about production as opposed to when I was, young and didn't really know a whole lot other than guitar goes loud. Um,
Turn it all up.
yeah, turn it all up. It goes to 11.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we've been able to like in a really fun and creative way occupy the sonic space that this record does and deserves live. So, but yeah, over the years it's been so fluid. Really is like if you saw us a particular year in the past, like guaranteed if you see us again like 5 years down the road, it's gonna be a very different vibe, even though the songs will be mostly the same.
Sure. And it's like, and I think it's important to find that, because a lot of bands, again, the Wallace sound, where you kind of feel like you're hiding behind it in a way, where
Yeah,
um, finding that space and that emptiness and even the quiet moments, I think it's important. And it's a maturing process where you don't feel like you have to hide behind anything, but to have moments of soft here, quietness here. Like it's smart and it's inventive and
absolutely. No, I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's totally a part of maturing.
mhm.
And yeah, I back then I really was hiding behind um volume
Yeah,
and like it was at a time where like I was discovering my voice and then like I was starting to find my voice, but I still felt the need to be louder than my voice. Like the wall of sound to just like occupy most of the space. And I was also, yeah, I was also nervous about like quiet parts, like and to give myself a little bit of credit or to defend myself a little bit, a younger version of myself is the South Florida music scene. It's they don't have there's generally not a tolerance threshold for dynamics or if a part's like, oh, it's not like up tempo, like you can lose a crowd really quickly. And
Right.
I was very scared of that back then. um I was very cognizant and I was very nervous about that, so I hid behind volume for sure. And growing, maturing, just as you alluded to, like it really just like it took me time to gain the confidence to own the dynamics and own like the sparseness and the quiet passages and the songs that, like playing like a 7 minute bossa nova, ish song, at like an alternative venue that people are, at a club trying to have a good time. Like it took a lot of confidence building to get to that point. And I feel like once you get that confidence though, and like you own it, then people start like, okay, he's this band, this artist, whatever, they're selling it. But like when I was younger, I just didn't have that. So I definitely hid behind a lot of noise. So yeah, it's just an arc, I think.
No, it's okay, that happens a lot. And I kind of, with the podcast and stuff, you talk to a lot of people who are like, well, I hide behind a mask, or I hide behind my keyboards, or
Hmm.
everything's a performance. And a lot of singers, after a while, they go, enough's enough, and you just bury yourself and your soul in front of everybody and go, listen, this is it. Here we go. I'm giving you my all, and I hope you like it or not. Like so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that parallels a lot with like just songwriting in general too. I mean, obviously, like we all mature in different ways, it's just inevitable, it's just part of life and growing up. And this particular record, it's also reflective of that just maturing lyrically. You know, I've always been proud of the lyrics for Lavola, and I spend a lot of time and put a lot of heart into it. But the earlier a lot of the earlier output, like I definitely felt like I was hiding behind a narrative. Like I was I was trying to be inventive and clever and trying to hide these themes, behind stories. And that is really fun for me as a creative writer. But with this particular record, I felt more it was a liberating experience to just write a little more directly, like not hide behind or not veil themes, not like back then, like I thought like, oh, people should dig, people like I want to dig. And there's definitely a credible argument for that, but I think it's also equally special to just be direct and be vulnerable. And with the lyrics for this particular record, it's a lot more direct and times uncomfortable for me.
It's powerful. Like,
um
it's a
yeah.
powerful album where you're gonna listen and you're gonna go, I'm feeling, I'm feeling emotions when I listen to this. And you should be okay with that. You shouldn't have to, um, again, when you're going, oh, I'm using screams or loud noises to hide and it's just like, this is really bears it, and you're have to sit there and accept it. And I love that. Like, you should be
Absolutely.
able to accept the themes of uncomfortability, about
Yeah,
life, love, death, everything in between. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
uh,
That was a statement.
yeah, definitely. And tell me about stepping away from Lavola and then doing Deep Sea Research Center. Did you feel like you had to kind of take a break, kind of put things on the back burner, and kind of have a moment of personal growth? Is that kind of what Deep Sea Research Center was, or was it just like, hey, let's goof around?
Both,
Okay,
honestly.
cool.
Yeah, but also I just gotta commend you for actually saying Deep Sea Research Center,
Hmm.
because whenever someone says that, they always most of the time it's like, that Deep Ocean Project band you have? No. So it just makes me feel like, should I have made that a shorter name?
No,
So thank you, thank you. Um, So yeah, with Deep Sea, it was at a time where I was producing the Lavola record, 2019, 2020, and it was taking a lot longer to to just realize that vision. and I was frankly getting
Right.
bored. Um, I really wanted to put something out, and I wanted to do something different in parallel to Lavola. Um, and so at that time, my friend Nick Jamshidi, he um, he would hear like a lot of like the I guess like stuff like electronic stuff I would put up as ideas on like social media, just like
Right.
for fun, like me.
Elements and stems and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, just like me like playing around on like whatever synth and I just post online, whatever. But not like a completed song, just messing around. And he messaged me and he was like he basically asked me to send him the stems for something that I'd posted online, like this like synth arpeggio idea, because he really liked it. And so I sent him the stems. I did like a loose arrangement for it, like a 4-ish minute like freestyle sort of thing, like, and then I'd send it off to him, not expecting really to hear back. Like we were friends, but I just figured he was just gonna play around with it and have fun, and nothing would
Just take
really
it.
develop.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, have at
Yeah,
it.
and then sure enough, he delivered uh some beat work to it and some really cool sound design, and it felt like a completely different world. Like, and that was really the door opening for that project, and also that collaboration that I have with Nick, where like I kind of come at it with like in general deep sea, like I come to the relationship with like some sort of mood, right? Like, and like a general arrangement. I usually have some sound design, some synths laid out. Um, and then his sensibility, he comes also from like a rock world, but like over the years he's really pivoted to like this really interesting like house realm. And so like that relationship together has been like really where the magic is with that particular project, where I have this like moody atmospheric thing, and he gives it like this like really danceable element as well.
Punch
And it
to it.
matches in a
Yeah.
really cool way, like a really electronica late 90s sort of direction. And so, yeah, that's to answer your question, it was definitely like the impetus for that project was me feeling a little complacent musically and just wanting to do something while the Lavola was finding its feeding or its footing,
Sure.
feeding. Um, but also like, we took Deep Sea very seriously as a project. Like once it started and we saw like that this was something special, yeah, we put something out in COVID, 2020, when there was no live shows, no nothing. So it's like, okay, let's just put something out from this project and see how it lands. And it got like some pretty good feedback. And so a year or two after that, I started. Oh, I mean, we put out something else after that, like a full EP. But it just the relationship with Deep Sea is like whenever we are feeling complacent or like we have time with our other music projects and just life in general, like we reconvene. And like for example, I just texted Nick like last week because we have like some old ideas that just are like half finished, and then Lavola kind of took off again, and his other music projects kind of took off again. But now we're at a point where just like let's like set up like a bi-weekly sort of like remote sync to just kind of like figure out like a path for future deep sea work.
So
So
it's not dead yet. So it's still going on. Just kind of, this is
Mhm.
we'll bring it back whenever we're feeling it.
Absolutely, it's like that kind of like makes it seem like I don't that I deem Deep Sea as like a lesser project. It really isn't. I feel like Deep Sea is equal to Lavola, and what's really exciting about Deep Sea is it's it's starting a new project, knowing what I know now. It's a different experience. Like I know how to build this world a lot quicker and a lot cooler and just avoiding a lot of the growing pains that Lavola had when I was younger, like that doesn't really exist because I feel like I can it's like a new beginning, right? Even though I still have Lavola, it's just fun having that new beginning experience, a new band magic experience. And so yeah, it's a special project for me, and it's flexing a lyrical side to me that I don't really I don't really utilize as much. Like it's a lot of Deep Sea feels like it's second person narration, which is something that I don't really do with Lavola a whole lot, and a lot more. storytelling that still also has like it's there's a cathartic element to that as well. Um, but it's a different exercise, and it definitely helps Lavola. It helps me like it's just two sides of the brain. They're always interacting with each other, and it's always teaching the other something, and it's educational.
I like
So
that because there's times when I feel like I'm one half of my brain is fighting the other when it comes to certain creative moments where it's like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
at war with each other. I'm like, all right, let's calm down. Let's try and stay focused on this. But
absolutely.
I
And
love when
it really just like emphasizes to me and reminds me like how important it is um like really really what's the I'm
I would
blanking
say
on
diversify your kind of idea. I don't know, that's just me, but
yeah,
your
but also
ideas and your projects, like kind of don't put all your eggs in one basket because you're gonna go. I like this, and but should I add it to this or should I just,
yeah, but yeah, just for me to remember how special these like creative collaborations are. Like the relationship that I have with Nick is it's unique to him and I, and that in turn has like it reinforced the importance of me to really listen with Lavola and like listen to my friends and who have also their stamp on the Lavola output and just to like really be open and yeah.
Well, it's interesting because from the beginning, you said you're very shy. It kind of became your thing, and then all of a sudden, you're building trust with people, and the more you trust them, the more the creativity flourishes. I feel like you've learned at this point to trust the people you work with, trust people, trust the communications, trust the music, trust your feelings with each other. I like that. Like I feel like there's this growing process with you where it started here, voted most shy kid, and all of a sudden you're kind of coming your way out of your shell and going, hey, you want to work on this together, and you started out with a trio. Then the band grows, and then you're working with other people, like, and working with new music and different territories. There's something beautiful in that growth. I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I completely agree. We're at a good state for sure.
Definitely. You did a run of Radiohead tribute shows. Tell me about that sort of connection and why you kind of went that route. Because I love
Yeah.
Radiohead, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to describe how that started. It was really just like the most random idea in 2017. It was like the 20th anniversary for OK Computer, and yeah, me and my friend Jeff in Lavola, we're also big Radiohead fans. Grew up on, Radiohead when we were in high school. So it seemed like a really fun challenge. Like, hey, let's learn most of it OK Computer and just do like a one-off show, and people will come sing along, whatever. And yeah, we did it, and it ended up being a lot more fun than we thought. Like I really thought it was gonna be a one-off thing. There's no intention of creating like some tribute band, and it still isn't a tribute band. Like I still label it as Lavola and Friends. But yeah, it's become this like once a year fun thing. And it's been also, I mean, like anything, it's also educational. Like I've learned a lot from it. Um, I've learned a lot in like the live arrangements for Lavola from those shows. And yeah, it feels like Christmas every single year we do it. It really does. It's a very different beast, like doing those shows. There's it's a different energy than doing like a Lavola show. It's just it's indescribable. So we've kept it up. I tried to stop it the third year in. I was like, okay, we're done. This is it. And then it kept growing.
yeah.
And then I just realized I'm just kind of denying myself fun at this point. Let's just do it once. And it's become more importantly at this point, and I think why we really keep it is not just because it's fun and there's a lot of people that like go to those events now, and have like a lot of it's a positive event
It should.
for how Radiohead sounds like it's the people are dancing and laughing and singing, um, but it's become like a nice meeting point for all of us because some of us don't live in Florida anymore. We don't like when I was living in LA, I would fly in for these shows, and then now that I'm back in Florida, we have band members that don't live in Florida anymore. But no, we're all close. We text all the time. Like we're best friends. So it's become like a nice grounding point, like a date where we know like, okay, we're gonna get together, we're have like the best week together, have fun, be with each other, play these really sick shows, and then part ways until next year. So yeah, it's
I love that.
also speaks to just I guess our friendship as well.
Yeah, and
I love those.
I was talking with a band previously, and they were talking about how he's like, I feel like I found myself, found new creativity just being in a cover band, like just kind of going, a little short time here, we'll do these songs, this, that. But then he's like, I feel like I was learning, a lot of different elements depending on who I was covering, certain guitar tones or certain this,
Absolutely.
that. And I think that's cool where an artist can just go, look, I feel like I learned, because you look up at Radiohead and they're always evolving, always changing. And then you're going, okay, what I learned when I was trying to kind of dissect this song is that, oh, these string arrangements, especially when, Johnny started working with more orchestrals and, stuff like that. Like you really find a lot of these cool elements that you can take and go, okay, I got this. Let me go ahead and translate it into this album or this
Hmm.
project. It's so
Absolutely.
cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely educational. It's just like when you start playing a new instrument when you're younger, like whether it's guitar or whatever, like, like you typically learn by learning other people's songs, right? And it that experience of doing the annual radio nights, it kind of brought me back to that, like just the joy of like just playing other songs and learning from that, right? And one of the initial things I learned when we did the first run of that is how deceivingly simple some of the Radiohead songs are. Uh, just like even the chords and like the arrangements, it's like it on the surface it seemed very daunting.
Mm.
And then when you dig in, it's like this is actually a lot simpler. But then there's something to be said for that, like the talent in like creating these like beautiful arrangements that are inherently not that complex. So I took that as a learning as well from those nights, and yeah, it's fun. What
Which
about
one was your favorite? Which album? Was it like a per album or just kind of like a best of or whatever? Did you
you?
do album
Yeah,
per
we, we
album?
we switch it up every single time. Every single year essentially we learn a handful of new songs, and then we switch up the set list, take songs that were in the previous year out. So it's a Frankenstein each
Oh,
time.
cool.
At this point, we try to touch on every record.
Mhm.
Um, so I think actually the past couple years we have touched on every single record. Um, my favorite record in general, though, if you're asking me, is
Go for it.
OK Computer.
Oh yeah.
And like slightly behind that is Kid A
Hmm.
slash and Rainbows. But yeah, I would say OK Computer and Kid A, those are the two masterpieces for me. So
I
yeah.
think the one, oh God, I'm drawing a blank on it. Give me 1 second. I'm
Hmm.
about to dig into my phone. Um, my God, I swear to God.
I
The
can name
King of
them.
Limbs, I think, is
England.
one that's I'm still trying to I'm trying to let it grow on me a little bit. I think
Yeah, that's
that's the
pretty
one that I don't go to often. I
same.
need to and just go ahead and just go, okay, take it in, because it's just so different compared to
Yeah,
other
that
stuff.
that's a pretty common reaction to that one, and that's admittedly that's one of my least lesser favorite
Me
ones.
too. Yeah, I can't say I hate it, but
Yeah, no, I
I
definitely
know
don't
it'll
hate it.
grow on me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great and it's a grower. But I also don't go back to it very often. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't really go back to a whole lot of them at this point because I wore them out so long
Oh
ago.
yeah, you. Yeah.
But that being said, I recognize, a couple of them are stone cold classics, and what what they did for me growing up, is what was invaluable. So, but yeah, King of Limbs, that's one that didn't really have a huge impact on me when it came out, and it's great, but
Takes a
comparing
little
it to some of the other
still.
ones, yeah,
Is
different.
there an is there an album? I try and word this properly, is there an album that's very top shelf for you where it's very rich in sound and very, but you don't want to wear it out. You don't want to get overly used to it, if that makes sense. Where you got like a top shelf alcohol or a top shelf cigar or something, and it's so flavorful, it's so good,
Yeah.
and you only bring it down occasionally when you need to. Is there an album that kind of has that where you don't want to overkill it? You don't want to play it too much where you basically have every lyric, every bass, every guitar, every drum piece memorized where it's like, okay, yeah. Is there an album where what's your top shelf album,
Yeah.
if that makes
Oh
sense?
man. Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Yeah, there are a few. But my problem is I do end up wearing them out.
That's
So
what I'm afraid of. I'm
uh
like, oh,
yeah, yeah. I mean, some of my favorite, like my top shelf records, Amy Man Lost in Space, that's a hugely special record for me. Obviously I can name Radiohead records all day. Uh Bjork, Vespertine, Fiona Apple, When the Pawn. But as far as like records like now, that there are definitely like some like top shelf records for me now that I do intentionally not I try not to wear it out. So that's a really cool question because I've thought that, but I've never been asked that before. Um, One of them is Nina Simone's Pastel Blues.
hmm,
Um, that I got into Nina Simone later in my life,
mm-hmm.
and those earlier few records are just so special to me. Um, like just like Goosebumps, like just so magical and beautiful. And Pastel Blues, start to finish, is such a fantastic record. And I try not to wear it out. So I think that right now, that's for me. And as far as like the rock realm, the new Geese record, Getting Killed, I think it's fantastic, but also like I'm just worried that I'm gonna wear it out. I probably already have at this point. Um, so yeah, I would say rock, new Geese, um, and then like I guess jazzier, like Nina Simone, some Eric Dolphy records I just got that I try not to wear out. And yeah, it's kind of all over the place. But yeah, I do end up just wearing it out. So it's a
There's a
no.
there's a few I kind of I love and I come to occasionally, and again I don't want to wear it out and I don't want to overuse it. I think for me would be there's one album, I pulled it up, Annuals, Be He Me, which is a fantastic album, and I don't overplay it just because it's so rich and
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
such a great sound. And then Me Without You,
Oh,
lyrically,
nice. Yeah.
I mean, I wore out the first album when it came out, the AB, is it AB Life with
Uh-huh.
Solid State Record or Tooth and Nail, but everything just they shifted their sound, and it's so poetic and so beautiful, and it changed so much, and I listen to it piece by piece just because I don't want that rush to end, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I totally get that.
Those are a few, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
um, those are
definitely.
just off the top of my head. I'm sure if I made a whole list, I'd deep dive into it, but those are just a
Yeah.
few that came to mind.
Yeah, those sort of questions, like whenever I have to like kind of like reckon or think about like records in any sort of context, like my mind kind of goes blank.
Yeah.
So like top of my head, Nina and Geese. But yeah, like I'm sure if I sat down, maybe even like looked at some of my music libraries, I could like, oh yeah, that one. I go back to that like once every couple of weeks because it's amazing, but I don't want to wear it out at this point. So yeah,
Do
I
you
get
have
you.
time for a couple more questions?
Absolutely.
You good?
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
cool.
Anytime.
Um, if you could go back and go to your younger self in the bedroom, what words of advice would you give yourself? Or would you just leave it and let the process just, you know what I mean? Like go if you
Mhm.
like if you had the choice of go back to your younger self, give your younger self some advice, would you take that, or would you just go, I'm going to leave it there and just let him process everything kind of the way you did, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't give myself any advice. Um, I think the process is definitely part of the journey, and for better or worse. Obviously, there's like the lowest of lows, as any creative will, or any human being that's living
Mhm.
will experience. And but it's very tempting to like think like, oh, well, if I could do that. I think in that hypothetical though, if I could do that, I would just like pat myself in the back or something.
That's
Just
a good word, bud.
I would just like just cheer up, man.
You got this. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
this. And,
Yeah.
and don't have the wall of sound. Like try and
Yeah. But I needed that
you needed
to
that. That was a process. You're right. That was a
yeah,
building
yeah.
block, and you're glad
Yeah,
you
yeah,
this
for
thing.
sure.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd give him some investment advice, but outside of that.
Invest in Apple. Invest in this. Before Oh man, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, as
Hand
far
him
as
a betting book, a sports almanac book, and just go,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
here we
exactly.
go.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as like the creative journey and just I guess self journey, I don't think
Just let him go.
I don't think I'd meddle with that. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. And yeah, it's important to just find your own way.
How are you keeping up with the era of social media when it comes to music?
Barely. Um,
It's a lot
yeah,
to learn. It's a lot to learn. I even
yeah,
I'm trying to figure it out.
yeah, I mean that's something that I have to grapple with a little bit, especially releasing a body of work that has been such a long time coming. Because my inclination with, social using social media for my music projects is just like I treat it as like another extension of the art. So like just sharing and disseminating more of the world, more of the world building behind um the piece that I'm promoting. I inherently don't treat it as a promotion. But there is, the very legitimate argument that short form content is what will find new audiences. So it's been an interesting experience. Like you're not gonna find me like in my car saying like I just got the new song of the summer.
I
Check,
was just
check,
gonna say that.
check Film the Technicolor out.
Yeah.
Um, but like it's been interesting. Like I've had friends in in my creative circle that have been like encouraging me to like open up a little bit and not like do anything corny or
Do a whole
inoffensive.
song and dance with one of your
Yeah,
songs and like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not do anything like that, but like do like just like at the very least like that I can engage my audience and speak directly with them and not feel like I'm imposing on their timelines or whatever. And so I've taken that and I've been a little bit more open, I guess, with the social media aspect and being an artist. But yeah, there's a balance. I think you just find what you're comfortable with and what you don't want to do. And for better or worse, like if I were to do no one wants to see a late 30s man, doing some TikTok cringe thing.
Doing a whole.
It's just not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. I'm gonna feel terrible, and it's gonna look terrible. So,
I think
um,
there's a lot of bands I see that'll do that, and it just feels like it's part of the job, like it's part of this whole, you know what I mean? Like you see
yeah,
old
yeah,
bands like Taking Back Sunday or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, da da da,", da," like they're doing a whole
yeah,
like, "Check out our album. We're coming to your town." It's just like, okay, I'm like, I hope this is something you love to do rather than your PR people being like, "All right, make the video, stand in front of the
yeah.
camera." They're like, "Oh, like
I suspect it's that, but at the same time, I mean, for better or worse, like Lavola is not my bread and butter. Like it. So I don't have to do those things.
yeah,
Or so I do feel uh empathy for artists that have to do the song and dance because this is their job.
yeah,
And it sucks that that is part of the job now. Like obviously I don't like it.
yeah."
But if I see it like I just have to just like okay, that's just what they gotta do. It's they
Part of the
gotta get
job.
paid. Yeah. So I for better or worse, I'm not in that position. So
Um, is there a narrative or an emotional kind of connection between all three albums? Or I guess I should. I mean, I leave Paris as an album, but is there kind of this sort of emotional arc that kind of connects them all.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. There are. That could be that's a whole other podcast.
It's up for translation.
But yeah, I mean, with Lavola, I mean, what makes this project so special to me and why I still have it, and not it's not just like a band that I abandoned after like the first EP or whatever, is I needed not just an outlet because all creativity I guess is an outlet in to some capacity, but I needed a sense of escapism, and I needed some lens to take in life, and so a lot of that is at a high level that like I'm leaving Paris, it's me being young and having this romanticized view of what life could be and how frustrating it is that I can't be courageous enough to take it, right? Um, so it's dreaming about, like even it's in the title, like, I have Paris in the title. I've never been to Paris. Like, well, back then anyway. It was like but that was the point. It was like the ruminations and romanticizing of a life that I felt like I would just never have. Um, and to a lesser extent, a lot of the other records for Lavola have been processing laws or processing forms of delusion, magical thinking. There's definitely threads that tie all of the work together, but I think it's important to notice, I guess, like the acknowledge like the progress, because like it'd be sad if I was still, processing the same problems record by record. So like there are like niches and pockets of themes that are specific to each record. But um, I think the general thesis for Lavola is just it's a lens for me to um, really express um, what I'm feeling and more specifically a vehicle for me to process um, darker moments in my life, whatever that is. Um, so it could be romantic, it could be familial, it could be just anything personal, it could be the most intrusive, thoughts that I get to say out there and it stays there. Um, it's a coping mechanism, and it's if I didn't have it, I don't know what I would do. Like
Sure.
I really don't. So
Is there a fan story or feedback that surprised you and reminds you to keep everything going?
absolutely. Yeah, I have a folder on my computer, and whenever I get like special messages like that, whether it's a DM from someone I don't know or um, telling me how much the music helped them or whatever, this particular song helped them, this record helped them. I keep it in this like affirmations folder, and I check it like once every couple of years.
Sure.
But it's just like a reminder, like you mentioned, like it's a reminder to myself, like I would be doing this regardless, but it's those reminders outside of like when I'm creating music that just make it mean a lot more. That it's resonating because I think back to when I was wanting to start Lavola for the first time, and I was just too shy, and I just felt like I can't do that. Like I'm not good. I'm not good enough to be an artist, and just feeling like an imposter in that realm. And but just thinking like if I did do it, like my measure of success, like I don't give a shit about like money and what all the material aspects of what in our heads, like what having a career in music back then could look like. uh what really mattered to me was like when I was a 14-year-old kid and listening to Lost in Space by Amy Mann or any like special record, and like how it helped me like immensely like process life and any like hardship and just like me feeling alienated even in my own skin, and then feeling like I have a home in this record in some of my favorite artists. And I wanted to do that. I thought like, if I just had like one person that my music resonated or it helped them get through something, like these records helped me when I was growing up, that's my measure of success. And I've been blessed to have that. And yeah, I've received messages from people who've lost family members and how, but this book's my cowardice. Like really help them like through that through those harder, extremely painful times. And then like breakups, like I get those DMs a lot, and it never gets old to me. Like I engage with every single one of them. It's like if you're messaging me, I'm not too cool to not message you back.
Yeah, that's good. Some
So
connection, you know what I mean? There's some where it's
yeah,
just like I've always been like, I'm always those like I don't mind whoever I'll try and message and be like, hey, thanks to your music's great, and you know they'll send it off and I'll be like, all right, well maybe they'll get it, maybe they won't, we'll see. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's those relationships are really special to me, and like anyone that you know gets that from Lavola or any of the work that I do, like it doesn't go unnoticed, and it definitely does help me immensely. So yeah, they know who they are, and if they listen to this, cool. Um, but yeah, I've spoken to every single one of them over the years, and they know. So
that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, that actually answered the next question. What do you hope listeners take away from your music? But I think that was pretty much already answered in that one. Last question. What's the future looking like for Lavola right now?
yeah, so the immediate future is we filmed a concert film in this studio where I recorded Lead in Paris. It's this like really charming studio in Hialeah that I love. And so we ran the record front to back with the current iteration of Lavola. And we have an old friend of mine, Sage Duval, editing it right now. And we're gonna put it out at some point within the next month. I'm really excited about it. It's really fun to hear a record that is like so produced, like Did You Have a Good Day, and like have it sound more raw in this like live iteration, and but like properly tracked, and it sounds fantastic. I'm really really excited about that. It's just like a really cool extension to that world. So that's coming out at some point. We'll probably just like drop the whole thing. I don't want to like belabor it any longer. So outside of that, like I mentioned, I there's no plans to tour. Um, I will likely play a couple major cities. That's kind of like in the works right now. Uh, but outside of that, I mean, that's kind of like the closing of this chapter is happening soon for Did You Have a Good Day, which is um, it's bittersweet. I've alluded to that in like some other like postings that I've shared online, but it's I'm I'm feeling like a lot more confident and comfortable with like closing this chapter and moving on to the next one. Um, where I feel confident that I will begin writing for whatever is next with Lavola. I don't know what that's gonna sound like, what it is. Like I'm always like I mentioned earlier, I'm always reacting against the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that that will happen again in a similar manner.
Sure.
But as far as how that sounds and how that will look and any timeline, I don't have that at this point. It's just so new. So, but I'm hoping to get those talks happening soon. And I feel like for this next one, I'll be leaning a little bit more on my creative collaborators than I have previously to kind of get the ball rolling. Because I think what we have now is really special, and I feel more open to like laying them in on the initial arrangement process. So we'll
Cool.
see.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, Julian, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, buddy. Yeah, everybody check out. I'll post everything in the description. Check out the Bandcamp. Always go Bandcamp first. I always say, please check it out. Buy it if you love it. You're always on streaming services. You got a main website. Follow on Instagram and Facebook. Am I leaving anything out? YouTube. I'll add their YouTube link. Check out their
Yeah,
music videos. They're fun. They're great. I love them. So,
awesome. Yeah,
but
thanks for
yeah,
having me. This is a really great conversation.
cool.
It was
Thank you,
fun.
sir. I appreciate your time.